Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin on May 7, Monday, 2018. At around, I don't know, 8:10 a.m., heading into work, going down the Irby Life hallway here, and I'm gonna go out the back way, going down the stairs, and I'll give you a little view of Manhattan that we have going out that direction. And I'm gonna take the walk to the ferry this morning instead of taking the train. On Friday, I walked all the way home, except of course for the ferry stretch, and it was, highly enjoyable. One of the features of living in New York City, as I still do, even though I'm here on Staten Island, is that I am close to all these battery recharging, iconic symbols of, humanity. And one of them we'll be seeing here as two of them we'll be seeing here as I exit the building. One, a bridge so long it helps demonstrate to flat earthers, no, in fact, the earth is round here. We have a bridge that had to take into effect mathematically the curvature of the earth in its design. It is so large. I think at the time it was built, it might have been the longest suspension bridge ever, the Verrazano, that sort of opened up Staten Island to Manhattaners or Brooklyners or whatever as a place to regularly commute from for work. And that opened up a whole, previously, I guess, a very New Jersey-like swampland of instant neighborhoods. The park out here is one of those filled-in marshlands. You can even see this parking lot behind me that they're working on. I'm not sure it's going to be a building lot, but right now it's used as a parking lot for weekend overflow of all the traffic they get here, and as a place to keep artwork. Yeah, so that's Irby for you. It's highly designed, and all the lines and the energies are very thought out in a way that speaks to me. And I'll be walking you here down one of my favorite walks. This is part of the, I guess, waterfront here that was so devastated by Hurricane Sandy a few years ago. And a lot of it is, government owned of some sort or another, either city or state. This used to be in the middle of the Navy shipyard, and I guess through some deal, this developer got the ability to open this renter's paradise here on the waterfront. It's Manhattan, and I'll be taking you to my place, my favorite view of it in the area, and that is the Verrazano Bridge. That whole thing there is the Verrazano Bridge. And yeah, so when I describe to people where I live, and I tell them Gotham City because they keep the cars for that series right over there, I also sometimes describe it as almost under the Verrazano because people kind of know where that is, but you come down towards the direction of the ferry. I'm sort of between the ferry and the Verrazano. So I see all this boat traffic out here, which is just really fascinating. All sorts of boats, from the most rickety looking barge things to the most luxury cruise liners stopping in the New York Harbor. And this is a part of the waterfront park that is generally closed off, that I have, endless good time talking about this opening here that they can't seem to keep shut, and a corresponding one up there. And I guess I'm walking the wrong direction to get to the ferry, but I did that subconsciously because I wanted to show you this location. I stand here, I actually know the paces if I want to get myself perfectly centered for a picture, where these lines come together here, and then I take 6 of my foot lengths, steps out, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that centers me right now in a way that if I were not in the frame, you would see would be a perfect photograph with these two corners coming right up to the edge of the picture and New York centered, and you know, very, I don't know what you could call it, spiritual. I mean, I tend to go all spiritual and foo-foo with these things, and so be it. You know, this is really the raw, unedited experience. This is the kind of stuff that would end up on the cutting room floors of any other YouTuber. And I guess the way I see it, and I don't want to get driver's licenses in the shot going in this direction, that'd be too easy, so I'll walk out to the even better part of the waterfront. And when I do this, I'm walking through this whole sort of territory. And you can see the shut-off park, the incredible temptation that is to just go through that fence and enjoy that restoration waterfront stuff going on, just like was going on in Inwood, in the other neighborhood I lived in New York for so many years. And I can't seem to get away from salt marsh reclamation projects, where the fresh water of the inland comes out to the harbor or bay, mixes with the ocean water, and you have sort of a swampy area, which is kept under control in places where they build, you know, paths like this. But over where, you know, there's, I guess, green belt stuff, I don't know, they are trying to let it go back nearly to natural state, breakers on the tides, so that there's inland still waters where ducks can hang out. And it's really pretty spectacular to see it now from two different neighborhoods. And on this end, you know, just when you think Inwood can't be topped. I mean, Inwood, as far as a neighborhood in the 5 boroughs that is still somewhat undiscovered and has not gone through that Disney-ification process, although it is a little bit here and there. But Inwood is top-notch. It's got beautiful parks, and it's great for pet ownership and raising kids. It's parkland, apparently collectively together between Fort Tryon and Inwood Hill Park, is about 1/3 the size of Central Park, which is a big stretch of greenery. And the part up in Inwood is even has the reputation as close as it gets to pre-Columbian primordial forest, although it's clearly maintained by the Parks Department. There's the caves up there where the Native Americans used to hang out, and a rock up there commemorating where Manhattan was bought by the Dutch for whatever that was. Just when you thought a neighborhood like that really can't be topped, you end up in a place like this where there's the constant, say, waterfront projects going on, where they're going to try and build a giant Ferris wheel up here and a boardwalk. But even before that all occurs, it's this, and I guess what I'm about to show you here. You know, we all take our risks and push at the edges of APIs, right? So my development work these days, am I a developer? Am I a Python coder? I have no degree in coding or computer science. I have a degree in graphic design, a 4-year bachelor, you know, an undergrad degree, Bachelor of Science, in fact, in graphic design, with a co-op program, cooperative education, where I got to work for Commodore Computers. So the place I'm going to be taking you into is in here, and this would be bad because this doesn't look open, so that is not an API that is inviting you in, so to speak. And I, even though I can hack, I don't, because I don't like creating brittle things, and I don't like exposing myself to risks in violation of what I would call the 80-20 rule, or average distribution, or the Pareto principle, or whatever you want to call it, which is, I guess, the rule I find myself more and more abiding by. My natural inclination is not to abide by the 80-20 rule, which, for those who haven't thought about it a lot, it's just the general principle of most things that are significant and of value usually falling in a small distribution range of input variables. And that's a fancy way of saying that when you set out to do a thing, if you just arrange it so that you do the most important things first, when you stop, you'll have gotten done the most important things. And then if you repeatedly approach a project like that, there's a sort of calculus of zeroing in on perfection, which you'll never really reach, and you accept that up front. We're talking about the APIs, right? And the inviting in. So every one of these fields has a place like this. I don't think anyone's gonna hold it against me if I just step in over here like this and walk past all this lovely junk. You know, this is why they don't want you doing it, for, I guess, insurance liability reasons. Someone owns this stuff. But now I'm gonna continue my walk to the ferry, the car-free, and I would say interesting ways. I haven't been up on these hills yet, but I think it'd probably be pretty cool. Now I just know from, you know, having looked at this space before, my path through. Property leads to property leads to property with holes cut through. So I guess I'm still on the herby side. If I were a little smarter about it, I would have continued over. And I think I'm going to do that. If I went down here, I am faced with the prospect of finding an opening again. But I have not gone so far in here, exploration-wise, as to feel overly committed. I just walk back out where I came in, and then I'll go around to the road again and take the open street entrance to the next way in. Now, this is making me a little later and later for work, taking this walking to the ferry, especially on this side. But what I'm doing is I'm processing my thoughts and my ideas. I am one of those people who firmly believes everything is one thing, you know? So why subdivide? The more you subdivide, the more artificial inefficiencies and, I believe, and it gets very subjective, lessening of respective experiences you are imposing upon yourself, stretching yourself thinner and into thinner and thinner multiple slices, each slice living a lesser and incomplete, you know, view, perspective on what could be. And the more you integrate the various parts of your life, and I'll just stop and do a 360 here because here's an interesting property, part of that waterfront stuff going on across the street from a parking lot that would cost me almost half of what I'm paying to be underground at Irby. And you know, get to know your neighborhood. As desolate as the first, you know, sweep of it may appear, because that first sweep may be deceiving. There's oftentimes a very rich environment just behind what one would, I guess, have to term a not yet developed local interface to the environment. Now, truth is there is. It's called the SIR, the Staten Island Railroad, and maybe we'll see it zooming by there in a second. But this whole stretch of waterfront here that was, I guess, so hit hard by Sandy. There's one of those barges, right? Maybe I should do a selfie stick if I keep this up. My walking rhythm is even rougher than usual because I'm carrying my bag now that I'm in this more semi-static state than the extremely dynamic state I had been keeping for the past, I don't know, 10 years. Ever since I started buying into, and it sounds like I'm saying it bitterly, but I'm not. This is actually part of what my thought experiment and lesson and what I need to think through today really is. By the way, there's just another 360 here, just some really remarkable structures and architectures around me here. It's always just a visual and design, just treat for the eye. This is not a way or a path most people are gonna take. I'm sure I'm not supposed to be here, but you know, small crimes, right? Exploring around the edge of APIs without any malicious intent, but to know more about the world you live in is kind of the, you know, the role of the hacker in the truest, you know, most appropriate sense. Because, you know, sure, there's always going to be people hacking for ill, but not the curious mind, the curious, unbounded, you know, uncompressible mind. I've been listening to the audio book or the Kindle with the audio accompaniment that reads along. Boy, things are getting very cool. Magic is upon us. Books that read to us, highlighting the sentence as you go as just a throw-in feature of an electronic book that you bought anyway. For a few more bucks, you get this. And it helps my child read, and they have it for Alice. Oh my God. So anyway, you know, technology is getting really cool, and rapidly that calculus of it zooming in sweep by sweep, 80-20 rule by 80-20 rule, manufacturing improvement to keep pace with Moore's law and to reap the benefits on commercial products has turned the things in our pockets into magic wands. I challenge anyone to, you know, yeah, I gotta get out of here. I hear voices. Okay, walk quickly. It's a public parking lot. People can just pull in here, so it can't be that big of a deal yet. I'm on my way in about my business through some of the most interesting stuff here. There's clearly stuff here that's just like, you know, used as very, they own the property already, so very cheap storage space for decommissioned, banged up golf carts and stuff. It's very cool equipment that's probably in need of some sort of repair. Here's that golf cart or whatever, Parks Department, go-kart, I don't know what they call them. On to the next lot and to the next through successive connected lots until I am in another land of Oz, the gated condominiums. And I'll show you an alternative to Irby around here. Now that I'm in this area, time for a 360, just the incredible beauty of all this. I'll do the 360 near the water so that it actually shows you a thing or two, and I'll do it not so quickly as I'm doing it before. Here's Manhattan. Here's some of those boats and barges that are fun to watch go by, and all the birds and the surf and the Verrazano. The crazy docks that are just being stored on land. And there we are, back where we started. I'll be going to the ferry terminal. Some roads are coming up that I'll rejoin civilization. And I'll get on with my talk about, I guess, APIs is the direction this is going. So application program interface. Science is showing us that as we zoom down smaller and smaller, really we are restrained to ever really knowing the boundaries of things. The points at which one thing interacts with another is when known occurs. Before interaction, things are in an unknowable state. And all kinds of things lead to interaction, including the observation process itself, which, although it's been calculated out of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and we do believe true random, or at least what we can never know as anything other than true random from our perspective, as an insider in the system, exists. True random exists, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, yet it is not the same thing as the observer paradox, where bouncing something of a necessarily higher energetic state than the background radiation so that you can you know, sample the differences of what gets reflected back, it gets really kooky because, you know, experience is induction. It is being close enough to something such that interaction occurs that does not interfere with the main event. It's siphoning off leaking heat energy or information. And copies can be made with no apparent information, no apparent energy loss. Information is free, just copy it if you have a good method of induction. But a good method of induction includes happening to be there, happening to have material objects laid out in alignment such that information can be induced, and all that setup work, all that configuration work has a cost. So the objective of good interfaces, of good rules of interaction, is the reduction of the instructions, the shortening of the algorithm. This is all in that The Information book, I think by Glick, that I've been reading or listening to a lot lately. And it all makes very good sense. I guess this is where I have to make my decision about which way I'm walking. I gotta go back out into the road. I guess this is what they're trying to avoid. I'll do it in the least damaging to my person way possible. That will include stepping out over here, stepping out over this, and then I'll come out over there, where I don't have to hop anything, but I am, the yellow brick road has become a wee bit more chopped up than usual, but I'll be back on a smooth area, high trafficked, and next sort of part of this walk, which if I do a 360 now, I'm getting to the gas surface station of the water here in New York City. I think this is where all the, you know, servicing boats of the harbor hang out, or one of the areas. It's a gas station for boats. So here I gotta sort of come up to the road. And let's see, so any more talk about the API stuff? Right. So, what direction really to go with this? You know, I want to go machine learning, but I gotta walk before I can run. I gotta crawl before I can walk. I gotta be able to lift my head up under my own power before I can crawl. And that's about where I am in all of this, if I were to be honest with myself. And I've got a situation now where I have grasped onto the most powerful and useful metaphors I have been able to come up with to foster muscle memory under a set of tools that I have selected that I believe do everything necessary for me to carry out my field as data master. Very much in the spirit of webmaster of the mid and late 90s, until sub specialization of every part of webmastering had reduced the webmaster to SEO. And that is me today. And I rather would remain a generalist and an SEO than to have to learn yet another CSS parser. I feel many areas of tech that are in full gear under the umbrella of full web stack development, user experience. Been there, done that. It was called not even the mid 90s, that was the late 80s, early 90s. It was Amiga Computer and Can Do and Amos and every other quick programming visual language I tried out, and realized that visual languages are very pigeonholing of you. You become that visual language thing, and that encapsulates and isolates you from the world. What you want is the selection of a language, of an intermediary of the, you know, it's always the Tower of Babel. And what you strive to do is find the most universally compatible cross-domain language that in its own is powerful enough to service you. So if that last part were not true, the in its own powerful enough to service you were not true, we'd all be dealing with something very much like machine language, ASM, assembly code, in which translation between one machine language and the other is done because it is truly a universal computing language. It's, you know, Turing complete, the smallest set of machine instructions which are Turing complete, because computers are Turing machines, subsets of the idealized definition of a Turing machine created by Alan Turing to explain what computers were before there was even a formalized concept of computers or the notion of computer science. It was all about these very abstract mathematical notions back then, where they were tying, you know, process to calculation, mechanical process, clockwork things to calculation, starting from the tradition of Charles Babbage and stuff. And a lot of this is me just regurgitating information from books I had read recently. Do not think I actually know this stuff as smoothly and naturally as it might come out during talks like this. This is having recently read Glick's The Information and Quantum Theory for the Befuddled, which, by the way, has the honors of being the only audiobook that I returned through the Audible book club that I had not only repurchased for feeling bad about returning it, because I had been listening to it so much. I bought the Kindle print version as well, so I could read along while listening, although it is not animated in the animated read-along style. Not all audio-enabled Kindle books are made equal. And those that are made in the cool new way that reads along with you, like the Speakaboos apps and, you know, the apps made for kids as read-alongs, are some powerful, powerful magic. Yeah, so magic is another thread of this potential thread of this discussion, is that magic. By the way, here are the condo communities, the gated condo communities that basically have partitioned off roads of their own. This has not been reopened to cars since Sandy. You'll see it's that same way on the other end. As I pass what I jokingly refer to as the Freddy Krueger movie set. There are whatever they were, warehouses or factories that were down here near the water, which are probably never going to reopen in their current form. And there seems to be a movement here to buy up these previously unviable yet incredibly beautiful looks. So you've got this view of Manhattan right here, and this fence and water docks and all this inaccessible stretch, which is, you know, slated to be the waterfront project when it reopens, which, you know, may or may not ever occur. But in the meanwhile, it's a nice walk to the ferry from my little renter's paradise back there. And I need to get these YouTube videos out again. VidCon is around the corner, and I've uploaded enough, you know, shots from the bus and, you know, gas grills. It's not even a grill. Fire pits. What else? Visual stuff, just visual art stuff. I'm not hesitating to push out little observations, because everything we do is about observations. I don't know if I caught that goose, but you can see that goose is very not deterred by the dog statues that they have out there. Let's see if I get this right. Yeah, I think I got that right. So they got those two dog statues out there in the field that are pivoting with the wind. That goose don't care. So when you approach any project, you want to approach it with a language that can go down to that universal computer level if you ever had to, okay? And it's not like you really have to that much, but when you do, with Python, you have the option of dropping down to C, which is not really that low level, but everything, every driver for everything is written in C, because Unix is written in C, and ever since Unix was created in 1970 as the great interoperable operating system, everybody's either been using it or copying it, or using it as their starting system from which other systems are derived, because the alternative lines of computers died out. IBM mainframes and mini computers and VAXes, and even the whole workstation variety of Sun SPARC stations and Apollos and every version of Lisp machines, CGIs and Indigos, and all these things that used to be the CG industry, computer graphics industry of Hollywood, pretty much gone, replaced by some variety of the desktop computer dominated by Intel, to the point where even Mac is Intel based now, and now even the concept of Intel based is fading away, because Turing complete, any hardware can emulate anything. So the logical thing to do is to be on hardware that is so screamingly enormously fast yet efficient, that we'll talk about that later, because Intel has fast but not efficient yet, although they're working on it, that you start a gradual transition process to the ideal platform for whatever application you're running. And so the hardware platforms sort of dynamically adapt to the application you're running as far as what they seem like to be platform-wise. You know, the rise of the tricorders and the elimination of general purpose in your pocket phone devices, although we'll have them for a long time, but they'll take on a specific category of product role. They're going to be our magic wands. Magic is rising, right, all around us. And oh, here's the Freddy Krueger movie set. You should see this place in the dark. Walking this walk with, you know, these lights not on. Or I forget, maybe they are on, but either way, it's just a very... Oh, and that's how close we are to the ferry now. This seems to be about a half-hour walk. So I'll be getting on the ferry, probably catching something like the 9 a.m. ferry, and I might not be into work until like 10. But you know what? I've been putting so much time and thought work into this project in every aspect during my weekends with Addie. It's never out of my mind because of the phase of the project I'm going through, where the decisions I make now absolutely will make or break the overall success of this project and my viability at this company, because I basically have to forever forward maintain anything and everything I ever built. So I have to have the process planned out so that doesn't kill me. And as soon as I put something in front saying, this is it, this is the magic creation, this is the spell that I designed, is going to be copied and it's going to be replicated countless times. And I'm going to have to live with those decisions. But part of my decision is to phase out the old stuff, phase in new, so that even as stuff gets copied, it gets cycled, so that there's always a conceptual, newest running version that is my new head of the entire endeavor, and I'll retire things from the tail, and so that it's always a moving, evolving head. And because it's all in Git, nothing's really lost from back in the past. I can dig it up, and maybe I'll keep a few extra instances peeled off of old states so I can refer to it without going through that rigmarole. That's something that Mercurial, or HG, the alternative to Git, that is actually written in Python and is very appealing for that reason, has over Git, which is command compatible. You see, the learning one is like learning the other, but eventually everyone ends up on Git because, you know, oh my God, momentum, right? Things that have no risk in taking up. Git, Linux, Python, and most controversy of all, Vim, right? There'll be whole videos coming up on that. But it's the muscle memory thing. So this first round of work and getting back to the API stuff, if you're sort of angling in at a project from the top, you're angling in from Linux. How do you get a Linux box? How do you get it running? Where is it running? What is its context? What is its hardware, its capabilities, its access to the internet and all these things. And then you take control of it. You take control of it by creating two filename.service files in /etc/systemd/system. You have to sudo to do these things because you're doing operating system level permission, super user level permission stuff. So you need elevated permissions to do it. So you need to understand a little bit about Linux permissions. So it's not like jumping in head first and you're going to be able to do it. But when you follow the right tutorials step by step, you will be able to step into any generally modern, Debian inspired, if not really Debian, flavor of Linux and start using the systemd service controller, which is the same thing as the Microsoft Windows Service Manager, where you click and turn and enable and disable different services and drivers. Same thing on Linux, you're just typing commands. You don't need that graphical user interface. And once you get that trick down and you can see what services are running, turn services on and off, that's your first step in being a data master, because no Apache. This is not web services where requests are made and responses sent. It's scripting. You're writing a script, it does this and does that and does that. And you need to take control of all the context of when and how it does stuff. So here I am getting ready to go into the ferry. I have no idea which one I'll be catching, but I do want to get a move on so I'm not too late. And so that's where I'm leaving off, and hopefully I'll pick up with more videos like this soon. I hear the ferry boat honking, so I'm not sure I'm either very right on time or just missing it. I'll let you know. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see some of you at VidCon.